It was this.
Dad was a toolmaker. He worked in a factory all of his life.
And now Sir Keir Starmer's got a new catchphrase. Here he was at PMQs earlier today.
We have a more severe crisis than we thought as we go through the books of the last 14 years. We must review...
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of that. You're going to hear a lot of that. The crisis is worse than we thought. But could Starmer's handy new catchphrase pave the way for loads of tax rises? Reports today suggest Labour is planning a tax raid bonanza. Experts are warning that Chancellor Rachel Reeves could target capital gains and inheritance tax at the next budget. But there's more. I'm joined now by former LBC political editor Theo Usherwood. Theo, thank you very, very much. Now, talk me through, please, and our viewers, some of these tax raids, especially, I think, when it comes to pensions and pensioners.
This is a big deal, potentially, if it goes through at the budget, if Rachel Reeves brings it forward at the budget, because it could amount to £50 billion in tax raids on pensions. And I'll explain how it works briefly. So at the moment, if you earn, say, let's say £130,000 a year, so it's going to affect those... Well, anybody over 50 grand, but if you earn £130,000 a year, you can say, actually, I don't want to be into the top rate of tax at 45 pence on the pound. I don't want to be subject to the marginal rate of tax, which, of course, kicks in over 100 grand because you lose your personal allowance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take £40,000. I'm just going to put that straight into my pension. And that's tax-free at the moment. And that's a huge benefit. And it encourages people to save, right? It encourages you to do the right thing, the responsible thing, and save for your retirement. Now, what's being proposed, or the idea that I think is going to be proposed at the budget, is to introduce a flat rate of tax on your pension at 30%. So what happens is that anything above 30% is going to get taxed. So that anybody who earns 50 grand or more and then puts that money into a pension, and we're talking people with ordinary jobs here. Many of your viewers at GBNews, head teachers, senior nurses, people who have their own businesses but don't make an absolute killing every year, but they earn good, OK money, right? They're going to be subject that if they want to actually try and do the responsible thing and save, they're now going to, that money that they're putting into their pensions is going to be subject to tax if it comes in at 30%. The way Keir Starmer is going to try, or Rachel Reeves is going to try and get round it, is that actually if you're a basic rate taxpayer, and of course that threshold is at 20%, you're actually going to see a benefit of an additional 10% allowance, which effectively is going to be a free gift from the government. But of course, you could legitimately say that if you are, because of fiscal drag, suddenly find yourself earning 50 grand or more, you are a working person. And the promise during the general election campaign from Keir Starmer was that he was not going to introduce new taxes on working people. And that's the point of debate.
But there's the working people thing, absolutely. But there is also the idea, I think, isn't there, of pensions and pensioners. So you're getting taxed in the first place, and then you're getting taxed again.
Oh, it's a double whammy. Yeah, absolutely. So when you put that money into your pension, and then, of course, you withdraw that money from your pension, you are taxed on that if it goes at the rate of income tax, right? So you're going to suddenly hit a double whammy. They're going to tax you twice on the same money that you've earned. So, I mean, it's...
That is big, isn't it?
It's huge, and it would amount to, it'd amount to 50, if they do it in that way, it could, go up to £50 billion. But to your point that you were playing that excerpt there from Keir Starmer in the House of Commons was, the mess is beyond anything that we imagined. We've got to clear up the public finances. We don't have a huge amount of money to play with, and that's what's going to be used to justify stepping in with a huge tax raid. And that's not counting, of course, what they could be doing around capital gains tax. They're not going to introduce it, of course, on primary homes, but they could put up the rates, and they could also look potentially on council tax as well, because, of course, at the moment there's a 4.99%. Anything above that needs a referendum. But they could give councils the wherewithal to put up taxes on that as well.
Well, you mentioned referenda, and there is another story in town. Nigel Farage used his maiden speech in Parliament yesterday to ask for a referendum on leaving the ECHR. He's not going to get one, obviously, but the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has already poured cold water on the idea. Not only has he vowed to keep the UK in the ECHR, he's also about to cosy up even more to the EU. So he'll meet with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in a few weeks' time in a bid to reset relations. What can we expect here, Theo?
So there's going to be a focus on trade. We've talked previously about dynamic alignment, so making it, in effect, that we sign up in Britain to what we would call all of the EU rules and regulations in perpetuity. So if the EU changes the rules, then we're going to follow that. We're not going to have a debate about it. We're just going to follow those rules. And that would mean that when it comes to just-in-time manufacturing, for instance, particularly things like car manufacturing or chemicals, it will be on an industry-by-industry basis, and we will sign up to that, and that's one of the areas they're looking at. And then what I think you'll see happen, Patrick, is that other industries will start putting up their hands and saying, actually, if it saves us in the paperwork, we'll have that as well. But let's not forget, and Charles Michel, who of course is a very senior bureaucrat in Brussels, has said very clearly that actually there's going to be a cost to, if we want something, the EU is going to ask for something in return. And one of the things they're looking at potentially is free movement for anybody 18 to 30 to come to the UK and work, or to Britain to work freely.
We'll have to watch this space. I'm sorry we got a bit squeezed there, Theo, but it just means we've got more to go at next week, doesn't it? So that was former LBC political editor Theo Usherwood there. Thank you very, very much. Look,